So first of all, before I get started, I want to acknowledge that I do a lot of work here at NIMBioS, but really the reason I'm successful at NIMBioS is because I have a great person on my team. Kelly and I work as a team, and I would like you to thank Kelly.
Take this moment to say that Suzanne and I do this as a team, and Suzanne has also been instrumental in making this conference happen. So you should also thank her too.
I don't know. Okay. We know Kelly did more work, but okay. Okay. Well, we should acknowledge our fearless leader, Lou Gross, who on the opening of this conference did already say some things about NIMBioS, but a few of you weren't there. But just to remind you that we are the National Institute for Mathematical and Biological Synthesis, and we are funded by the National Science Foundation, Department of Agriculture, and Homeland Security. And just to remind you, I think actually Lou told us this, but basically we are here looking to encourage collaborative work and efforts at the interface of mathematics and biology, investigating fundamental and applied questions, and we're also looking at trying to enhance human capacity to analyze these problems, and also looking at education and outreach. And I think Lou already introduced this team, and here's our team, current leadership team. Again, I want to point out, if anybody's interested in some of the activities at NIMBioS, just point out that we're different than the math institutes. So we're actually a biological synthesis center, and we are different in that we're mostly community driven. So if you're interested in organizing a working group or a workshop, you can apply to do that. And so working groups are small groups, and workshops are more like 40 people. Working groups come back several times to work on a focused problem. And so we're community driven. We have different topics going on all the time, and you can submit your application. We'd be glad to talk to you about that. We also have tutorials, and we have many education activities. And once again, we are very good at collecting information about how we are connecting different sciences and together basically doing interdisciplinary work and trying to relate these. We're sort of amazing here at NIMBioS is that we actually have a person who with a PhD in evaluation who works with us full time on our staff, and we also have a person with a PhD in communications who works with us full time. So those two actually are very involved in this type of thing of collecting information and evaluating. That's Catherine Crowley and Pam Bishop. Just want to point out, anybody's looking for different types of positions, we do have postdocs. We usually have about 16 postdocs here. We also have sabbatical fellows, short-term visitors, and we also have short-term visits for graduate students. We have a variety of outreach activities. And Lou already did this. Actually, I think this is Lou's talk. This is why it's really confusing. I was like, this doesn't look like my talk. I was like, yeah, sorry. Sorry, Kelly. I was like, I wonder why I said Lou at the beginning. I thought I
You don't look like Lou.
I know, that's why I said this is the same talk. I thought, this is not my talk. I'm sorry about that. I just didn't even, like.
Oh, it's this one,
yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. This is my talk, actually. About this talk. Yeah. Well, a lot of these NIMBioS talks look sort of the same at the beginning, so this is just a reminder that if you look at the Math Institutes page, you'll see the listing of the Math Institutes, and then you see some other supported institutes, and we're over here on the side, because technically we're not a math institute, we're a biosynthesis center. And so I already said all these things, but I guess I don't need to say them again. And again, I think I said these things also. Okay. So I just want to point out a couple of things that we have a summer graduate school program that we cooperate with NBI and Kanban, and it happens every summer. And this summer it's on modeling oscillations, and it's at NBI, Mathematical Biosciences Institute. We also have summer research experiences for undergraduates and teachers and pre-service teachers. And we also want to mention that we have an undergraduate research conference. And I just want to mention, even if you're somebody who is not in the area of mathematical biology, you can send some of your students here. We've definitely had undergraduate students come to this conference who just want to learn, what's going on in math biology. So we have a limited amount of funds to help support people to attend this conference. So you might look into that. If you know some undergraduate students who want to come to our conference, think about it. We usually have about maybe 120 students come and maybe 30 or 40 faculty. So think about that. And this is the date for the upcoming one. The deadline for getting a bit of funding to come, like, for example, to get some housing and things like that, is quite a couple of months before that, so look on the web to check that out. Okay. We also have a lot of tutorials and some workshops. And sometimes we just have mathematicians that come that have never worked in math biology before, and they want to come and learn ideas. And you might think about that. We have some that are like curriculum workshops where you're trying to learn how to include some mathematical biology applications in some of your courses for your students. And then also some where you could get some ideas about being involved with research. And so we have, of course, blogs, and you can sign up for our newsletter and check out our website. I want to also mention that a couple of institutes sent me slides to show. And so I just want to, again, point out that there's some materials over there from the institutes, but I just want to point out that, as you know, this is one of the institutes that's been going on now for about 32 years. And so basically the Institute for Mathematics and its Application at the University of Minnesota. And just once again, they're a visitor institute. They're a bit bigger than we are. They probably have like 1,000 visitors a year, where we have about 500 visitors a year. And they do have thematic programs, and this is just to remind you of some of the upcoming programs. And so if you're interested in that, now when they have thematic years, there's always a few other things going on there that year, special things, but they have quite a few things in terms of tutorials and workshops on those special themes. And then they just want to tell you, some things that are still coming up. And so you see that there's kind of a variety of topics. Again, you realize that they have postdocs, and if you're not familiar with that, they have regular postdocs and they have industrial postdocs. And so you might look into that. They definitely have, if you want to consider starting out into a new research area, you can visit there and have a time to work on a new research area. They also have this mathematical modeling for industry workshops are frequently attended by graduate students. They have a REU program. They have summer schools that may be at the IMA or at their participating institutions, and they have quite a few other things you might want to look at. And then I have some information on MSRI, the Mathematical Sciences Research Institute, and so they are actually the institute who manages the grant, the diversity grant, that actually funds a bunch of these workshops. And just talking about this is also a bit bigger. They have about 30 postdocs each year, and just talking about the idea that their deadlines for postdocs are due December 1st. Here's looking ahead at some of their research programs. Geometric methods, and we have quite a few. This is pretty much a year related to geometry. And we have some flyers back there about some of these things. Again, a little bit more about different things related to PDEs and geometry. Just want to remind you that there's different types of deadlines. So that's one thing when you're thinking about postdocs. There's different institutes have different deadlines. December 1st is a very common deadline for many institutes. NIMBioS has two deadlines a year, so you might look into that. We have 2 deadlines a year, one in December, but one also in September. So this workshop we're having is actually funded partly through this grant, and it's part of the diversity initiative here of the Joint Institutes. And so you see that just coming up in the future, as somebody pointed out. Of course, one was pointed out about careers for minorities, and there's also coming up an Infinite Possibilities Conference, and then there's the Modern Math Workshop, and this is at the SACNAS meeting in October. Huh? Did you have a question? This means that SAMC is the lead organizer, but it's actually going to be at the SACNAS meeting. The Modern Math Workshops each year are at a part of the SACNAS meeting. They actually start like half a day before the SACNAS meeting, so if anybody wants to talk about that, we'd be glad to talk about that. We organized it once, and SAMC would also be glad to talk to you about it. So, okay. I think that's it, and so maybe Shanada wanted to come next. Yes, okay.